Once upon a time in the quiet village of Umeketa, where whispers danced on the wind and shadows clung to secrets, there flowed a river known only as the River of Death. Its waters shimmered with an eerie silver glow under the moonlight, beautiful yet feared. No one dared to swim in it. No one drank from it. The villagers believed it was cursed, and those who crossed its path never returned alive. But in a small hut at the edge of the village lived a young girl named Nkechi, a gentle soul with a heart as soft as morning dew. Her life, however, was far from peaceful. Nkechi lived with her father, who was a fisherman, her stepmother, and her stepsister. Nkechi's stepmother, Madam Uju, was a cruel and bitter woman who treated Nkechi like a slave. From dawn to dusk, Nkechi worked, sweeping the compound, pounding yam, fetching firewood from the deepest part of the forest, and enduring insults that could melt stone. Sometimes, her stepmother beats her for not finishing her chores on time. She overloads her with work from morning until night. Her stepsister, Chism, was the opposite. Spoiled and proud, Chism never lifted a finger. While Nkechi walked barefoot to the stream with a heavy clay pot on her head, she did all the house chores. Chism painted her nails and boasted about how beautiful and important she was. Sometimes, after working all day, Nkechi goes to bed without eating. Her stomach cries out in hunger, and she sits under a tree, wishing for her father to return. Her father was a fisherman who always went to the neighboring village for fishing. Sometimes he stayed for weeks without coming home. Whenever everyone goes to sleep, she sneaks into the kitchen to eat the leftovers, which Chism and her mother have yet to finish. Her stepmother will shout and call her, Nkechi, where is this foolish girl? The sound of her name echoes through the village, and the villagers will always gather to watch her stepmother as she maltreats her. None of them dare to question her. She will always sit under the tree behind the house and cry, wishing her mother who died years ago would come and take her with her. Her stepsister, Chism, would command her to go and wash her clothes, reminding her that she's a maid and she needs to do all the work. Chism was so rude to everyone in the village, including her mother. She would shout and insult anyone who dares to question her about her bad character. One morning, as the sun rose behind the palm trees, painting the sky with gold and orange, Madam Uju called Nkechi. Take this pot, she said coldly, shoving a dusty pot in front of Nkechi. Go to the River of Death and bring back water. Make sure all the water pots in this house are filled with water. Nkechi's heart stopped. The villagers had told stories of the River of Death, tales of glowing skeletons and voices that called out to passers-by. Nobody who went near it ever returned. Her lips trembled. Mama, please. Not that river. She knelt on her knees begging her stepmother not to send her to the river. A hot slap landed across her face. Don't question me, you filthy girl. If you don't return with water, don't return to this house. Nkechi sat on the ground for a while, thinking of what would happen to her if she went to the River of Death. But she had to obey her stepmother. With tearful eyes and shaky hands, she left her father's compound and set out, knowing she would never return. As she walked through the narrow forest path, her thoughts swelled with fear. Birds stopped singing. The leaves whispered. The air grew colder the closer she got to the river. Her feet ached, but she dared not stop. Then she saw her. An old woman, frail and hunched, was sitting by the path, trying to lift a bundle of firewood. Please, child, help me, the old woman whispered. Despite her fear and urgency, Nkechi placed her pot down and helped the woman. The firewood was heavy, but she didn't complain. She even offered to take the firewood to her house. The woman looked at her with watery eyes. You have a good heart, my child, she said gently. Go to the river. Do not fear. But remember, do not speak to anyone, do not scream at what you see. With that, the old woman vanished. Nkechi blinked. She was alone. The trees rustled. The river was near. She clutched the pot and continued walking. After a few minutes, Nkechi finally arrived at the river of death. The water shimmered unnaturally, glowing like silver under the midday sun. Mist curled along its banks. The trees around it stood silent, as if holding their breath. The air was thick with mystery, and the stillness was so deep that it felt like time had stopped. Her hands trembled as she stepped closer to the edge. Her stepmother's voice rang in her ears. "If you don't return with water, don't come back to this house." She knelt down cautiously, dipped the calabash into the water, expecting pain, a voice, maybe even death. But nothing happened. The water swirled calmly in the pot. Confused but relieved, she stood. Then something miraculous. From the water emerged a faint figure, tall and glowing. It was a woman dressed in flowing white, with eyes that held the weight of centuries. "You have shown kindness, Nkechi," the spirit said in a voice that echoed like wind through trees. "When others walked past an old woman, you stopped. When your heart was full of fear, you still gave. Because of this, you shall not only live, you shall be rewarded." The ground trembled. The river bubbled. And suddenly, from beneath the water, beautiful gifts began to flow toward Nkechi, a basket full of gold bangles, some other lovely gifts, and a small talking parrot perched on a wooden staff to deliver the gift. The parrot chirped, "Truth shall be your shield, and kindness your crown." Nkechi, stunned, gathered everything. Her calabash of water was still full, clear, and untouched. She turned and ran back to the village, clutching the strange gifts, her heart racing with disbelief and joy. When she arrived home, the villagers gathered, whispering in shock. Madam Uju's eyes widened when she saw Nkechi alive and glowing. "You're alive?" she asked, stepping back. "And what are all these gifts?" Chisholm stared in disbelief and jealousy. "How is it possible?" But Nkechi said nothing. She simply dropped the calabash before her stepmother, placed the bag of gold bangles and other gifts on the ground, and walked quietly into the hut. That night, Madam Uju couldn't sleep. "How dare that girl come back alive?" she hissed. "How dare she have all those treasures? Why her? It should have been my Chisholm. I wanted to do away with her. But it seems the river doesn't take life but offers gifts now," she thought. Chisholm, her face twisted with envy, leaned closer to her mother. "Mama, I want to go to the river too. If Nkechi got all of that, imagine what I'll get. With my beauty, I'll bring back diamonds and more. Go, my child, bring more gifts for your mother. Gold, diamonds, everything, get it for me." And before dawn, without telling anyone, Chisholm set out for the river of death. After a long walk, she saw her too. But unlike Nkechi, she met the same old woman struggling by the roadside deep in the forest. "Please, my daughter, help me lift this firewood," the woman begged. Chisholm scoffed and rolled her eyes. "Do I look like your servant? Get out of my way, old woman. With this beauty, you want me to stain my dress?" The old woman said nothing. Just watched her walk away, her heart heavy. By the time Chisholm reached the river of death, the water was still, the mist thicker, and the silence louder. She dipped the pot she took by the river's edge into the water and waited for her gift. But something else rose from the water. Dark, cold hands, long fingers. And a shadow with glowing red eyes. Chisholm screamed. She tried to run away, but it was too late. And the river swallowed her whole. Madam Uju sat outside her hut as the sun began to set. The shadows grew long. The birds had stopped singing. The wind carried a strange stillness. She waited. And waited. But Chisholm did not return. By nightfall, fear gripped her chest like a claw. She lit a lantern and paced the compound, calling out. "Chisholm. My daughter. Come back home, oh. Don't joke with me, oh." But the only response was the whisper of the wind and the faraway hoot of an owl. She ran to the village square, crying out for help. Please. Someone. My daughter went to the river of death. She has not returned. The villagers gathered, whispering and shaking their heads. Some were too afraid to speak. Others knew what had happened. She must have gone to seek what Nkechi brought back, a woman murmured. But she was warned that river is not for everyone. Madam Uju fell to her knees, wailing, beating her chest. She only wanted what the other girl got. She only wanted the gift. But the old men of the village, the keepers of stories, spoke firmly. No, one of them said, his voice deep and steady. The river is not a market. It gives only to the pure of heart. It punishes the greedy. That is why it is feared. That is why it is respected. Madam Uju stared into the night, her tears drying on her cheeks. For the first time, she realized it wasn't the river that took her daughter. It was her own hatred, her own envy, her own cruelty. That night, she returned home and found Nkechi sitting quietly, feeding the talking parrot and weaving a mat with her golden thread. Madam Uju dropped to the ground. I wronged you, Nkechi. I let my bitterness destroy everything. You were never the slave. You were the blessing this house never deserved. Nkechi looked at her stepmother, her eyes filled with quiet sadness, not triumph, not revenge. I forgive you, she whispered. The parrot perched beside her, flapping its wings. Kindness lives on. Cruelty ends in silence. Chisholm never returned home, and no one saw her again. Moral lesson of the story. The river of death does not punish without reason, it reveals who we truly are. Goodness is not measured by beauty, wealth, or boldness but by the heart. What you send into the world returns to you. Nkechi's kindness saved her. Chisholm's pride destroyed her. And Madam Uju learned too late that hatred cannot build a home.